Why are we here on earth? What is it that we're going to do apart from being either a mom or dad and have a work? We're really learning how to be human, not human doings, but human beings. So how is it to be a human being?
Welcome to Lessons in Leverage, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of success. We'll help you unlock the secrets of leverage so you can amplify your impact in the world. Here's your host, Spencer Lowe.
Welcome back to another episode of Lessons in Leverage. I'm your host, Spencer Lowe. Today, I'm joined by an inspiring guest, Gitte Madelaire. Gitte is a futurist, corporate innovator, and the author of Energetic Leadership. Her groundbreaking book identifies 9 pivotal trends that are transforming the leadership landscape, emphasizing purpose-driven and energy-based models. In this episode, we're going to uncover why energy and intuition are vital leadership skills. We'll explore how new generations are redefining work-life balance, and we'll understand how leaders can leverage these shifts to create more innovative and thriving organizations. Gitte will also share her compelling personal story of transformation, illustrating the real-world power of aligning life and leadership with one's true potential. Gitte, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me, Spencer.
I'm very excited to dig in. I grew up very religious and spiritual, and then I left religion and ended up in a much more secular worldview. I had different family members or people who talked about energy, and it seems to me almost like something that was too esoteric or something that I didn't really resonate with at first. Later, I had experiences that opened me up to this side of life. I'm curious, what do you say to people when they say, if we're talking about energy or the energetic side of life, that's too woo-woo for me, or I don't know if I really need that or identify with that? How would you answer people who maybe have that concern?
I would respect their belief because we are in a very special time. And I think we also just starting to have that conversation. So I really try and listen to what they are saying. I think there's no right way to approach energy or the way that you perceive it. I have a very rational husband who is an engineer, so he will look at it. I have a more intuitive way of looking at it. The answer to the question is really, how do they describe it themselves? Because I think we also on our way to find the language for it. Yes, it can be very esoteric, but for me, it really has been that it's physics. It is what we is, and that's it.
I love that answer. I read a book by Joe Dispenza where he tied in a lot of physics and science with a much more engineering type mind. It helped me see that there are concrete evidences of energy, some of these unseen forces, abstract. It has real practical implications in physics and science as we open up our mind to consider it and not feel like, oh, there's crystals, people that like energy. Sometimes we want to have an identity. Am I with you or am I not with you? If you just open up this idea that energy is all throughout the universe, and maybe we don't fully understand it or have the right language for it, then I think that gets you to a place where, at least for me, that allowed me to start to consider, let me hear some other perspectives on it. Let me try out some of these things people are talking about and see what it does for me. I've done some energy work that doesn't really resonate with me, and other stuff that's been deeply spiritual and profound for me. I love how open you are about that this idea that wherever you're coming from, just be open to it, approach it in a way that works for you, and see what it means to you. I'd love to hear how you got to that. I know you had your own personal journey where you felt like you're in this pressure cooker and had a big realization for yourself. Tell me about that.
You use the word open because if we are open, we are in a way surrendering. As soon as we surrender, we are having some kind of authentic curiosity into something. Then we are more open to listen, to maybe dive into whatever the development is. But coming back to my own story, it is first in the last 10, 15 years that I have been able to, because I surrendered, take off the lid of my pressure cooker. I think I've always been intuitive, but my parents got divorced. It changed me a bit. And when I was a teenager, I thought the best thing would be in life to really find love. That must be the good thing, because I had seen this didn't work for my parents, so I wanted to do that. And I did find, and I'm still married to Renee. That was a first situation where I really took a decision that was quite important in my life. And I started to be much more aware of who I wanted to be with in relationships all through life. Did they give me energy? Then I had a game-changing thing. I lost my job and got to have a break. And that break, where you have a couple of months where you can do nothing apart from try and find a new job, got me into meditation. Or it started actually to be just being quiet. I just sat down and was quiet, my own way of meditating. I'm not really a person that's into, you have to do it this way, because we're so much into boxes in this society, and you have to educate yourself in a certain way and otherwise blah, blah, blah. No, we have, if we are 8 billions on this planet, we have 8 billion different ways of doing it. We are programmed in different ways, and we as an individual have to sort it out by listening to our energy and our intuition. This game-changing period where I didn't have a job got me into surrendering, into listening much more to what is it that's calling you? What is it I really want to do? It could be just on this particular day. Do I want to please all the others? Yeah. I have 3 boys. What is it I as a person want to do? Of course, I also am a mom and I'm working, but what is it you want to do? So that can be in ordinary life, but it can also be on this bigger perspective. I ended up in corporate life, and 2 years ago I thought, no, I want to do something else. I got out of it, and now I'm an author. And then trying to influence and building the bridge together with the business world to become a better place for organizations and humans by using what I call energetic leadership, using our energy to create organizations fitted for humans. And also there's a lot of focus on what can you do as an individual and how should you organize your organizations and structures. Still, I think it's very much down to the individual organization. There's no fixed solution. I have worked a lot within customer management, but how is it that a whole organization work together with the customer journeys, value proposition, blah, 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 all that? How are you customer focused? Because I've been working with that and seeing how difficult it is, especially in greater organizations, to have silos work together, I know that it's also important we get energetic leadership into the value chain. When we start changing as humans, both as a customer, but also as an employee, the whole organization will change anyway. And I don't think we, as leaders in companies, are really understanding what is happening. To me, it's like a human tsunami on its way in a positive way. So there's a lot of potential.
Yeah. And when you think about all the things that can get in the way of your personal journey, this idea of listening to yourself, listening to what's calling you, that energy within yourself, I think there's so many ways that we can cut ourselves off to that we could close ourselves off or quiet that. Certainly, I think technology and social media, there's a lot of noise that can make it hard to listen. What have you seen to be some of the biggest factors or reasons that people find it hard to listen to themselves? For you in your journey, you had to lose your job to spend that time already being an intuitive person. That gave you some of that time and quiet. But what does it take for those of us that do want to listen to ourselves and listen to that energy? What do we need to do to create the space for that?
I think it's very individual. At the moment, we have a lot of talk about regenerative leadership because it's coming from the climate crisis. Our climate is suffering, and there's a lot of humans that see relief in being in nature. So nature can help you. That's another way of being quiet, because you can get out of the office or the house and either be quiet or start screaming in the forest to get it out. What I think is happening is that it's for humans to calm down, because as soon as you start calming down, it's all to do with our nervous system. Then you can start to listen to what your body, your inner self. And when we are stressed and having a lot of thought, we are not able to hear the soul talking. We might hear it a little bit, briefly all through the day, but maybe we won't at all. For some people, it will help to go into nature and do something. Others will be quiet, start meditating. Others again will have other kinds of it could be also running or something. So it's not, again, back to that we think that there's one way of doing it. The whole thing is, to me, that you could also say, why are we here? Why are we here on Earth? Apart from being either a mom or dad and have a work, we're really learning how to be human. Not human doings, but human beings. So how is it to be a human being? Because we're very good at doing, we're doing a lot of things, and that's back to the masculine energy. I'm not talking gender here, but more it's a very productive energy. And the other energy is the more feminine, where you are more reflective and listening inwards. So I often say that we have to be able to stand on 2 feet and balance that energy. So if you are constantly we know that from working and, whatever we're doing, but we understand that we need to sleep. Of course we do that. But the reason why I find all this fascinating is we're facing a lot of challenges in the world. We have the climate crisis, maybe political or economical or health or whatever crisis. But what we're having a lot, there's a tornado going around. If we are able to align ourselves, because we're facing this turbulence, and we are able to align ourselves, we are much more strong, but at the same time with a flexibility to move and be in this sort of very hectic environment that life on Earth is becoming.
So when you think about that turbulence and the environment sometimes feeling a certain way, are there certain things that you focus on with organizations? You mentioned not being obsessed with the doing. We tend to quickly focus on, what do I need to do? Yeah. Instead, just focus on being. How do you help someone to be? How do you help someone or help an organization to learn how to be at peace with themselves, to be in this energetic state that would allow them to thrive despite all of the external chaos or noise?
I start that's why in the book, the first part of it is very much about foresight or trends. You could call it futurism. So if we look out the window, how does it look? And it doesn't matter whether you're a leader in a company or an organization or just leader in your own life. But what is it you see out the window? They often don't look up and look out the window. They're so much into doing what they have to do that it's a problem if you are one of the leaders or in a boardroom or whatever organization you're in. if you are not able to look out the window and see what's happening. We can get a lot of data, we can have a lot of models, but it's going back to these two energies. The masculine energy is very much the data, even ChatGPT or AI. We still have to use our intuition by looking out the window and trying to understand also what is it that I see that is still not in the models and the data, and align that within ourselves. And I have a very good example from recently. We have a Danish economist in our national bank, Thomas Hart. He was in the newspaper saying, we really missed to see that inflation crisis coming in 2021. Because we were looking into all our models. But in the US, they had two very star-famous economists, and they were able not just to look in the data and the models, but also to look out and see what is happening. And sort of combining that, because able to listen in, and we also listen to our soul. The soul is actually talking from the future to us. When we look at the data, it's still from the past. If you combine all the good stuff we have and we know with what the future you is telling you, and then be able to sort of align that in how we, and it's not just how we do business, it's in everyday life. And when we do that, it becomes much more joyful, because we're doing something that our soul is happy doing. But it's also becoming much more easy to do it. So it's not that things are not hard, or you could be difficult, because we have to learn new stuff, and it doesn't mean that you cannot work. Of course, you work long hours if you want to, but it's in a more joyful way. It's not strenuous in the same sense that it was when you didn't have your soul with you.
That's such an important observation. Something that I think about the most meaningful times in my life, and the times that I've accomplished the most and felt proudest of myself and was most engaged and excited about life. I was working huge hours in whatever that domain was. And so often I think people think of work-life balance and they think it's a scale, and am I spending too much time here, too much time there? In my experience, it's much more of what you just described, which is how much time am I spending at peace with myself, aligned with my purpose, with really strong motivating reasons that I'm excited about, or how much time am I spending in something that feels totally without purpose, empty, hollow, just draining? It's not going to make me feel better about that. The real balance is that spiritual balance, that inner balance of, I know that what I'm doing aligns to my purpose, to my soul, to what it really connects me to myself and to others. And then I find immense purpose and value in even working harder. That's such a big realization that I've had in my own life when I coach people that work in my companies, and they say, they tell me, oh, I'm so burnt out, Often they think the answer is I need to work less hours, I need to change, when really we end up going down this path of what is wrong internally, because we're really disconnected. You're not doing things that you're finding fulfilling. That it won't matter how many hours. It's just that's going to drain you.
Yeah. It's very much like, is it your head talking, our ego, or is it the soul? And it's not that, of course, we need the ego also, but if it's unbalanced, everything is, if something is out of balance, it's not good. So yes, we really should ask ourselves, or when talking to people you're working with, why is it that you don't feel engaged in something? Maybe, they will find out they're much more happy doing something else. And that was really they were meant to be. But coming back to these trends and futurism, and what is good about these trends is that if you are in a room where you have people, they they might be a leadership team or whatever, but they still maybe are not so secure or don't have the psychological safety. But by talking about trends, you talk about something that's outside them. I see very often by doing that, we get to talk about a more soft subject, and then we get these agendas in through the back door, so to say. That's very often another way of giving people permission to show up differently. But how do you do that without making them lose face or whatever? Because it's kind of therapy. It's just a way of unlocking something. I had one company where they were sitting, and I said, after we had talked, they had been asked to choose 3 of the 9 trends. And I said, okay, well, there's one trend that you haven't chosen, none of you. And that's the one from 1 to 3 bottom lines. Oh, yes, but that is no problem because we have no problem with that one. This company is doing so well and we are doing everything for the 3 bottom lines. And then I just said, okay, but have you listened to what you have said? Isn't some of the things that you said, isn't that sort of going into these 3 bottom lines, especially the one that's called social, which is to do with us humans, that a lot of you are mentioning that something could be better? What is the narrative? What is it we're telling each other? What is the narrative in the organization or the company? What is it we are branding this company on? That could say brand promise, but is it really a brand lie? So that's how you can use trends.
Wonderful. And for those who have not yet read the book, as a reminder, it's called Energetic Leadership. You can get it in a myriad of places, wherever you buy books. If they haven't read the book, just to recap really quickly, these trends, we're hitting on societal trends that then impact how you view yourself and how you view the world. Some of those are things like from something to something else, from industrial to planetary, from more to better, from conformist to rebel, from closed hierarchy to open communication teams. These types of trends are outlined in the book. And what you're saying, if I'm understanding you correctly, is when we understand the trend, then it allows us to make observations about ourselves or others that don't feel as personal. We don't feel, it doesn't have to be a you problem or a me problem. It's more an observation along that trend, an observation on how we compare or relate or interact with that trend. And that allows us to be a little more introspective and explore some growth together.
And then you can also work with now I have chosen some of the mega trends and what is relevant for the book and this topic that I'm into. You can also work with trends in your own organization. You have your own trends fitted to this organization, even down to one team. It's not just something that sticks in this book. It's very much out in the open. We will see that because it is not just in big institutes and whatever to look out the window. We will do that in any kind of way down into also school system and having quests in all kinds of way. And then we will list them as a trend just to have a framework. Because what is it that the trends are going to help us with? To help us understand what we're seeing out the window, and then what are the consequences of these trends? What does that mean? We have to train. We have to have new competences and skills. What is it we're going to train in society, in this organization? And how is that affecting our value chain or the task that we're doing in this particular company? So it doesn't mean that a company or an organization will have to look at it and say, okay, this trend or it's not relevant for us. We are fully aligned with it. It's not that everything is an issue. but that you are having a talk about it and prioritizing. Because I think we can get very confused and stressed if we look out the window and see everything that's going on. So it's also calming down ourselves and what we see. And okay, it is not as difficult as we might have thought. We will have to look at this and so on. So, and then it's because we have to be much more authentic.
Yeah, I love that observation. In fact, one of the trends from the book that I wanted to ask you about, because it aligns to a subject that we talk about on this show pretty often, we think about leverage, we think about a lot of different things, but one of the biggest sources of leverage currently is automation and AI. It's something that is increasingly a source of leverage for individuals and for business. In your book, you bring this up as one of those trends you call out. You say from automatic to AI magical. And you point out an important observation about using customer service as an example, the way that businesses have gotten more automated and more efficient, yet the experience can feel soulless, detached, and detrimental to the relationship with the customer. I'm curious what you're seeing in companies you're working with on that, how you see that trend playing out. For people worried about that, I tend to think that presents a unique opportunity where yes, some things will be automated, but your ability to bring your humanity, your soul, the ability to help people with the change is a special component needed next to the technology. How do you view that trend impacting the businesses you work with?
I view it as very much linked to the more the company or the organization is aware of what their purpose is, their company purpose, and they are actually aligning their whole business and structure to the purpose. So and then because you might have an organization that it's okay that everything is very automatic, but some are also moving not away from being automatic, but realizing that okay, some of the touch points in our customer journey needs to be much more human-centered. So it's not that you have a customer journey with all these touch points, and now we are automizing it everything, and it's lean. We're realizing that we have loyalty problems in these touch points here and there, and we can actually do something differently because that's the feedback we see. I just view it very much as we have been, we just got a little bit too far out and we forgot the balance, because technology is wonderful, even AI, but we are the humans and we are the ones steering or guiding the way that we use technology. I also had an experience coaching some doctors. They were setting up a business and it's going faster and faster. People don't like to go to the doctor anymore. We will take the time. Of course, we will use some of the technology to help us, but we will maybe earn a little bit less, but purpose. And that their way of using AI or any kind of technology in a magical way. So yes, I'm very fond of customer service in any way.
That's such a good observation. It's an exercise a lot of businesses miss or don't take the time to do, is to look at these key interactions that you're having with customers, because oftentimes in a desire to be more efficient or to automate or to implement AI, it's easy to categorically replace certain things or certain roles. And the companies that I work with that do it the best really master what you just said, which is this idea of they know where the customer journey and experience is going. And at each of those touch points, they manage to make that extremely human and feel very connected and balanced. And behind that human, they can push tons of work and automation through the AI, through the systems. When you miss that touch point and make the customer work directly with the automation, usually well-intentioned, it often, even if it's efficient, just doesn't feel the same. And it misses some of that soul and humanity. The businesses that are figuring that out are making the biggest gains quickest because it's a vastly different experience to your customers. And cost-wise, it's actually quite similar. It's just reallocating where do we put humans and where do we put technology and how do we create something that works together and is balanced that way.
Yeah. So it doesn't mean that, of course, we can have a really, magical experience with a robot in a reception somewhere going into a hotel. And for me, if I'm a customer in that hotel and I like that, I will come to that hotel again and again. But in another situation, I would like to have an interaction with a human because that's what I need. But maybe you will have other people, I don't want to be met with a robot in a hotel. I want to apply something else. I think we will see that both organized companies, but also the products and services that we will have in the future being much more differentiated according to our needs and wants.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that balance of knowing where the human experience is important and valuable is going to be critically important. Because the more automated things can become, the more that we don't need to do, the more value we will place on humanity because it becomes what is scarce. What used to be scarce might have been access to a hotel, but if hotels become extremely automated, efficient, and cheap because technology is able to maintain them at such a low cost and it's so accessible, now the only thing that is valuable or scarce is the human part. It's that connection with the human. And so it actually amplifies the need for this interpersonal connection that people will have. And I think we're even seeing this now. I was just listening to a report where they were talking about a specific place. Their business model is when you go there, it's like a cafe and they take away all your devices. You can't have any technology and you drink coffee and knit. And it's just like a knitting club.
Yeah.
But people gravitate to it because it allows them to quiet the noise and disconnect from technology and have this human experience with other people that like to knit. And so to me, that's this example of as we get more and more technology and more automation, there's going to be these increasing needs that we have on the human side where we get out of balance. And it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out in terms of business opportunities and connection and community.
Yeah, I think we will see businesses that are 100% automated and there's hardly any human interaction. That is okay for the customer and whoever owns that company. Then we will have others. It will be much more diversified because nowadays we all think we have to have the same way of organizing a company and the same way of doing everything. And
there will be a lot of diversity. I mean, in the U.S., we have fully automated car washes. I can pull up and get my car washed. I don't need to talk to anybody. I just can get it done very inexpensively, and it's great.
Yeah.
There's certain things where that's the best experience, is to get that done, get it done quick. It's inexpensive. There was a time where going to a car wash, I had to get out. I had to give them the keys. They would take my car. They'd wash it by hand. There was all this human side. And now it's just a quick utility that I can get done in a totally automated way. But I think there's a balance that is larger than any one business or interaction that we will always gravitate back to. If everything was automated, I would feel out of balance. It'll be interesting to see how we gravitate back towards these special experiences that connect us emotionally and on that human level. The more businesses move towards AI and towards automation, it just makes that other side more valuable and more important.
You could use the AI to, like, you are calling in and you have all of this, the company can quickly gather all the information from the last 5 years, and the human will be more in a role where they have to be some kind of advisor in how to, make clear recommendations to, how do we go on from here? So it's not trying to gather all the information first and finding out what has actually happened. So in that sense, it's many new exciting jobs that we haven't worked out yet, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It is an exciting time. Well, Gitte, what would be your advice that you would leave for leaders as we wrap up? what would be the message you would want to give leaders if they want to stay ahead, if they're wanting to grow in this area of their life? Obviously, they can pick up your book, but what would you say is the most important advice you want to leave them with?
I want them to be calm. So calm in the sense that they take time throughout the day or week just to be quiet. And I'm not saying, it should be in nature but just be quiet where it's possible for that individual person. And quiet can be with closed eyes or open eyes. It should be with no noise and no people around. Be still. Because nowadays, I think a lot of us think that we are not able, or I cannot do anything to improve both my own life or the whole world or whatever. Yes, we can do everything by just being calm, and we can actually change the energy frequency. So, and if we do that, all of us, just a little bit, and increase that, it will have a magical effect on the whole world. So by doing that, and the funny thing is, when we start to do something that's nice, we tend to go back to, I want a little bit more of that. So yes, reset yourself by just being quiet. That's the recommendation. It's simple and it's cheap.
There you go. It doesn't even cost money. And if you go pick up the book, Energetic Leadership, Gitte lays out several other exercises and ways that you can find that peace and you can change your own energy and frequency. So be sure to go check that out if you need additional resources. But thank you so much for coming.
I just want to add one thing, because the audio book is quite innovative, I would say. It's with my cloned voice. So that is now that it's to do with also AI and technology. So I found that interesting to do it, and I thought, is it ethical? Okay. And I thought, yes, it is, because when we're about energetic leadership, that is very innovative that we're doing. We're setting out on a new path. So yeah, have a look at that one. It's on cultivate.com.
Absolutely. We'll post links to the audiobook, to the book, so that people can get access to the resources. But thank you so much for coming today. It's been a pleasure learning from you.
Hey, before you go, I have a small request. Our mission is to empower as many people as possible to maximize their potential through the power of leverage. Could you help us in this mission by leaving a review on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube? And if you know just one person who would benefit from today's episode, would you please share it with them? Your support means the world to us, and we are thrilled to have you in the community. Thank you for being a part of our journey and helping us grow. You can find show notes for today's show and past shows at lessonsinleverage.com, which also has links to connect with me personally and connect with our various podcast channels across your favorite social networks. A big thanks to Solve.cloud, who sponsored this episode. They're a group of expert consultants that help SaaS and financial services companies to implement, optimize, and manage Salesforce.com. They can help you with custom integration solutions and are helping customers to implement some of the most important generative AI technologies. You can find them at solved.cloud. That's SOLVD.cloud is the URL. Thanks again, and we'll talk soon.